Older people who use psychedelics show fascinating brain function. Drugs with psychedelic effects like psilocybin, LSD, MDMA, and cannabis help protect the brain from aging. A recent survey of over 3,000 U.S. adults between 42 and 92 has found that those who reported using a psychedelic of any kind in the past year show fewer depressive symptoms, favorable changes to their higher order brain function. To those who do not use psychedelics, those who did scored higher on tests conducted over the phone, which assessed inductive reasoning, verbal fluency, working memory, processing speed, attention switching, inhibitory control, and resisting the pleas from Nigerian princes for large amounts of money to regain their fortune. Psychedelic users did not, however, score better on episodic memory, which stores and retrieves everyday events and is often impacted by dementia. Findings are only observational, so they can't determine cause and effect. They rely on subjective accounts with uncontrolled drug doses. What's more, the study does not distinguish different types of psychedelics being taken. Nevertheless, gerontologists, that means old people doctors, Al Kumar Bhattacharya from Utah State and Khalil Fern from the University of South Florida, there's reason to keep exploring. Psychedelics have recently garnered increased scientific interest the world over after several clinical trials found these drugs have the therapeutic potential to treat neuropsychiatric disorders such as anxiety, depression, or PTSD. A growing number of clinical trials exploring the potential health benefits of these illicit and historically stigmatized drugs, these studies rarely include older patients. In fact, the possibility that psychedelics could be used as a tool to restore processes in the aging brain has hardly been explored at all. That's a significant oversight, argued Bhattacharya and Fern, as older adulthood is often associated with declines in executive function and mood disorders. A number of recent studies on older cohorts suggest that psychedelics can enhance creativity and improve executive brain function, even at very small doses. Federal and state governments should decriminalize psychedelics so that research can be conducted in a manner that ensures reliability and validity. Longitudinal research, including clinical and community samples, is essential to utilizing psychedelics as an alternative therapy in late-in-life cognitive functions. Other scientists agree that we should start to consider psychedelic-assisted therapies for older adults. Rigorous long-term trials will be needed to test the safety and efficacy of this approach before it could ever become an established clinical tool, of course. Now, what I'd like to say real quick is Paul Stamets has proven recently with a study called the TAP test that not just psychedelics, but lion's mane, which contains erinacea and erinacine A, have been shown to improve motor function. And so what they've been doing is giving people microdoses of psilocybin and lion's mane, doing a tap test. I think we may have spoken about this before, where they time how many times these folks can tap within a given time period. After being on these Stamets-Sec microdoses for a week or more, their tap test improves by, I think, plus 30% or more, how many times they can tap within a given amount of time, which is basically showing an upregulation of neurological function through the application of both lion's mane and psilocybin-containing mushrooms. So this looks like some really amazing news, and anything we can do to keep older folks, like myself pretty soon here, spry and mentally sharp, there we go, is welcome. And I think every time we apply science to these medicines so far, what we're seeing is they are a boon for humanity. And we just have to keep working to overcome the stigma that was caused by Richard Nixon, J. Edgar Hoover, Ronald Reagan, and these anti-drug pro-fascism advocates. I'm really looking forward to what you guys have to say and to starting this Monday off powerfully. This is Matthew saying at 9 News. Come on in, everybody.
Matthew, so now, is this only because doing psychedelics opens up these different neurological pathways, and basically these senior citizens were so-called maybe closed-minded and now are opening up new pathways in their neurological system? Is that why this study is coming out?
Well, number one, I'm going to ask in advance for forgiveness from both Dr. Jean and Dr. Mark, because I'm not actually a scientist. I'm just a citizen science lover. But there's a few things. Bro
science.
Yeah, number one, they help with depatterning and repatterning. And what happens is as you think and have emotions and develop routines, you actually make grooves. You make pathways
new channels
in your brain, almost like grooves in a record. And so one of the things these things are doing is allowing you to think outside this box and these patterns and forge greater brain connectivity. Another thing they did, if we look back about 4 months to a story I shared, is The classical psychedelics actually penetrate into the nucleus of brain cells, act with a 5-HT2A receptor inside the nucleus, and cause both neurogenesis and neuroplasticity. Neurogenesis is the growing of new neurons. Neuroplasticity is greater connection of neurons through growing new dendrites, which are like antennas. And so what's happening, it seems, is that depatterning effect, along with the reaching out to grow new patterns, is allowing people to open their brains and reach for more information, more experiences. And one of the things we see with neuroplasticity and brain function is the more you expose your brain to new input, the more your brain will continue to grow, the less brain volume you will lose, and the more likely you are to remain dementia and Alzheimer's free into old age. So the thing is diet, right? There's all types of things in artificial, in our modern day artificial diet that cause plaques in the brain that contribute to ALS. And so keeping a good diet, keeping yourself engaged in games and nature, and doing hella psychedelics is a way to stay healthy, strong, and intelligent in old age.
So you're basically saying is that you can teach an old dog new tricks, Matthew St. Germain.
Yes, sir.
Okay.
I'll put my stamp on it.
Look at what was happening in this article. I mean, the oldest person they studied was 92 years old, and it says in the article the study was only for people who had done psychedelics within the last year. So, like, shout out to that 92-year-old that's getting jiggy in the old person's home. Like, that's who I want to kick it with. Like, I want to hear that person's stories. They are keeping it dendrite positive.
Well,
like that person is.
Hold on, you have to assume that they can remember those stories too, though.
Yeah, who's getting plugged to the nursing home that's getting them all mushrooms?
That's right. That's right. I even if their stories aren't real, I'll sit around the campfire with a 92-year-old and hear him spin some tall tales from an era I can't confirm did or did not occur.
Oh, I totally
just think that's so cool.
Are you kidding me?
Oh yeah, just break out the marshmallows and make some s'mores with the old senior citizens. I'm with it.
I sent this article to my mom along with the TED Talk of Paul Stamets on the TAP test, and she's a yes, so I'm going to get her the Stamets Stack microdoses. She's starting this week.
Amazing.
Interesting. I'm going to send this over to my mom too. She was a registered nurse for a number of years. She's been retired for a long time, and I think she will find this extremely interesting. Fair enough. Any thoughts on this, Brandon, before we move on?
No, that's what all I was going to say is, yeah, I think that, like we said, just finding a way to teach old dog new tricks. We're learning that psilocybin and all sorts of things are helping our brain. Why aren't we giving access?
Fair enough. And on that, we're going to roll into a commercial, and we're going to be right back.